morning and welcome to the news. Recently, large journalists have exposed the largest meat production supply chain, Tyson Foods, and their unethical procurement within their supply chain. In more particular, the chicken hatcheries and their animal abuse towards broiler chickens, the farmers' negotiation positions, and emissions directed straight from the farmers into the environment. Now over to India, live in the field, to explain more.
Thank you, India. So, as you can see, there's heaps of poultry products here, such as chicken, Kievs, pizzas, and the real question is, do consumers know where this chicken comes from, what pollution it emits, and how the farmers are treated? Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, India. Now, Tyson's food chain is a large, vertically integrated supply chain. In more detail, here is their whole value chain from beginning to end. It starts with some research and development and then moves on to chicken procurement. The chicken procurement in more detail starts with the young female chicken getting bred and grown and raised in independent contractors. They are then transported to Tyson's very own and leased breeder farms. The next stage is raising the animals. Now these young female chickens, they're in their breeder farms where they lay their eggs. These laid eggs go to broiler hatcheries, and the hatched eggs go to broiler farms where they are raised until fully grown, ready for processing. Now to the next stage of feeding their animals. Now this is where Tyson Foods produce and procure their own scientifically formulated feed, where they outsource from domestic and international suppliers and agriculturists, aka they put in their own feed and drug enhancings for poultry feed. Now, the second last stage is getting to processing plants. This is where the animals are brought in and transported into big factories where they are basically killed for the products and animal foods that are consumed by the public. The second last stage is rendering. This is where the byproducts of those killed animals are then put into byproducts of things like other fats and protein supplements that they sell on shelves in stores. This is then part of the distribution, wherever it goes to retailers, stores, schools, or possibly exported internationally, domestic. The three main issues identified within Tyson Foods' unethical procurement of processed animal meats within their supply chain is the unfair, unethical abuse of animals, the negotiation points of the farmers and their well-being, and the environmental impacts these farms create on the environment. Old-fashioned way saw poultry processing in the backyard when they're fully grown, but due to the increase of population and demand over the years, now 80 million kilograms of poultry is produced every week. Now this is due to growth-enhancing drugs forming the chickens twice as early as what was done before. Now, deformed, underdeveloped or male chickens are all illegally gassed, suffocated and ground up, whilst 9 females are kept in cages, which prevents from exercise, nesting, and from spreading their wings naturally. This causes things like heart failure, heart stroke, heat stroke, dehydration, and with the processing of killing, they're electrified in some water, but not always killed. And so they are then later killed while still being alive. Here is Donald Regan, an ex-supplier and grower of Tyson Foods' unethical procurement chain, here to tell his side of the story.
They're a massive corporation with heaps of profit, but we don't see any of that. We're still in debt from paying our bills and stuff, and we don't even have the money to upgrade or renovate. And that doesn't even get to the part of removing the chicken manure.
Tyson Foods factories and their emissions and disposal of waste are directly correlated to the environmental impacts that they have on the world. Land and soil degradation, water pollution, air quality, deforestation, and climate change are all impacts that they have on the environment. Additional 13 billion kilograms of chicken manure was associated with Tyson Foods production into the environment. Now, with this all comes lawsuits, as many of them have been put against and filed against Tyson Foods for the dispute that they've had against water pollution into ecological systems, totally wiping them out. Now, along with factories, indirect Pollution, which has been the feed production, has had a much bigger impact than the factories alone, with greenhouse gas emissions, ozone depleting emissions, and global warming emissions making the biggest impact. Furthermore, on the local communities and the farmers having cancer and health related problems. Tyson Foods is yet to incorporate their fair trade certification within their supply chain and procurement process. This means they are not internationally recognized for having safe working conditions or fair terms of trade for their farmers and communities. In 2018, Tyson Foods recruited a third-party consultant, Food Logic U. However, this did not resolve the social, economic, or environmental issues this company faces. Further, the recruitment of blockchain will increase the transparency and traceability for all stakeholders to see. Blockchain is data sets or blocks, which record all transactions for the exchange and broadcast to all stakeholders. This technology will help the company evaluate and order all suppliers and reduce the unethical practices that they face.
The unethical issues that Tyson Foods face include animal abuse, farmers' rights, and environmental impacts on the environment. If they don't mitigate these changes soon, the environment, social, and economic issues will have a large impact on their profit and their consumers.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.